estrogen meaning estrogen, and so it chemically resembles estrogen, which can have consequences. The joke, of course, for males who are working out trying to be in great shape is that they're going to get boobs if they have too much soy protein. So there's even a technical word for that, which I don't remember. But the more nuanced, slightly more nuanced approach to soy protein is to say that the response in the body is tissue specific, which means that some tissues think, oh, damn it, we have a surplus of soy, and they respond in that way. And others think, oh, we have a deficit not soy, estrogen, a deficit of estrogen. They behave that way. So you have this very complicated response system. And I guess as a practical matter, you probably don't have to even give this any thought if your consumption of soy protein is less than about 1/3 of your protein calories. But if it's more, you may want to do some due diligence and look into this avenue of stuff. Two more quick notes on protein is that one, it stimulates the thyroid, which can upregulate your metabolism. I don't know why, but it does. And then the other is that in men, their sperm count was lower when they had a lot of protein, a lot of soy protein. I don't know why, but you can use that for jokes if you want to. I don't know why I have that there, but some guy in the 1920s went and lived with the Inuits and lived only on seal meat for about 2 years. His name was
that's mostly fat, not protein. So that's the seal meat Atkins diet.
Well, he seemed to be okay with that. And I learned that Inuits are Eskimos. I didn't really know what an Inuit was. Sorry. Soy references. There's the journal article for all that stuff. Fat. Nuller's hypothesis level amount is about 25% of your calorie intake, plus or minus 10. That's broad. That's conservative. That's baseline. That's just that's what we usually do. And if you just vary if you eat sort of normalish, trying to be goodish, you'll fall into that range. You'd have to make an effort to go outside that range. More or less fat makes it easier or harder to stay sated. And as I'll emphasize a little bit on, maybe the only bit of wisdom that I would actually want to dogmatically offer is that in your toolbox of things that you could do for your nutrition, having the capacity to be sated is valuable. The ability to be satisfied by your meals, knowing that you're not having too many calories and you're being reasonably good, is just something you need to have in your toolbox. And it contrasts with carb cycling, because if you're carb cycling, it's always kind of on your mind. Oh my God, I'm being good on the Monday, fine, no cookies for me. And then, oh my God, Sunday, pancakes at all, it's all great. And your portfolio of tools is better when you have both any other gimmick and sated. But you got to have that talent you have to have that talent in your toolbox to be able to not be thinking of food and not be hungry and be eating well. And it really can be attained. And one of the toolboxes, one of the unlocking ideas for that is to increase the amount of fat in your diet for the sake of being satisfied. Some more thoughts on fat. One is it can be categorized into polyunsaturated, monounsaturated, and saturated. Saturated fat does not actually satisfy your hunger the way polyunsaturated and unsaturated do, because it doesn't trigger cholecystokinin, as I had mentioned way back before. And following the Harvard link will give you an update on what their current take is, which there seems to be consensus on, which is have a ratio in your polyunsaturated fats of 1 to 4 in your omega-3s to omega-6s. So you don't have to remember any of that. It's all there for you. But the ratio of omegas is a big part of characterizing what good fat is.
So what foods have lots of saturated fat versus unsaturated fat?
Meat and cheese have lots of saturated fat.
Okay, so what foods have lots of fat that's not saturated?
Salmon, avocado.
Fish in general.
Olive oil, walnuts.
Flax. Yeah, flax. And now carbohydrate. Very hard to characterize. I really, I had a hard time characterizing what a nullish hypothesis amount would be, because you could do anything you want, really. But I figured a bottom level which should be the 130 gram per day threshold, which if you go below that, you start going into ketosis. I just figured, surely that's not a null level. That's a real decision in life. So if you want to try that low level, which is the Atkins level, where your body starts using ketones for energy. I do not know how to describe it more rigorously than that. I just know that there's a threshold, and your body starts using ketones. And of course, your brain runs on glucose. So if you start significantly decreasing your serum glucose levels, there's an adaptation period where your brain gets used to taking in more nutrients, which is also a trick if you're having a hard time going to sleep. You would actually work out to burn out a lot of your serum glucose and then take in a lot of turkey, because your brain will want energy, but in the lack of glucose it'll take in more tryptophan than usual, and it'll trigger a little bit of sleep response. That could just be a mechanistic idea. I don't know if there's any research actually supporting it, but I've read that anyway. So back to topic. So if you don't know what to do, stay above the 130 gram threshold unless you want to actively decide to try the ketosis idea. And unfortunately, this is an area where my presentation is incomplete. I didn't have time to research this for us. But the only major avenue that's still out, well, there's lots of avenues, but a major avenue that's still out there for us is vitamins. Whether or not this whole multivitamin things work, do we need something beyond just enough to avoid the maladies that we know of, such as scurvy and gout? I don't know what the answer is, but the answer that would influence carbohydrates, because the more that we actually do need these vitamins, which and minerals, which almost by definition are things we want for just little amounts of, but the more we benefit from more of it, the more that you benefit from having more fruits and vegetables, or certainly more vegetables. I haven't emphasized it, but I've been talking mechanistically about insulin, but the distinction between refined carbohydrates and other slower digesting carbohydrates or low-calorie carbohydrates such as fiber is a major distinction. The refined carbs get a very strong, fast insulin response, and then if you shoot your insulin response up, your body thinks that it's living off of sugar, and then it will use up all the sugar, put it in the fat cells, and then want more, and then you'll be hungry again sooner, which allows for the potential of spiraling. So your hormones, which are sending instructions through your body, get thrown off a little bit. And that's really the opposite of the satiety idea. So I'm trying to go through this topic without getting stuck in the dogma of low carb versus high carb. Where I want to champion the idea of satiety, and I do want to say that refined carbohydrates are antithetical to that. If you're throwing off your hormone signals, you're throwing off your capacity for your hormones to discover, hey, I'm full, I don't have to eat too much. Yes, secondarily, there's a pathway leading to inflammation, and inflammation is just generally bad. Fructose, yes, there is one more level of detail on that, on partitioning carbohydrates into refined sugars, and that's fructose. All of the mechanistic details about fructose are bad, and it doesn't increase our insulin level. So there's a thing called the glycemic index, which measures how much of an insulin response we get to carbohydrates, and we don't get any insulin response to fructose. So this shows the limitation of, you don't pick one measure and get married to it necessarily. Fructose will go directly to the liver, which will immediately turn into fat, which in and of itself isn't necessarily the end of the world, but if you're doing it at the very same time that you're taking glucose, which of course table sugar is just glucose and sucrose, then you have your liver producing fat while you already have the insulin response to the glucose telling your body to start using sugar for energy and use that for fat, and you just have a lot of lipogenesis happening at the same time. And then you have lots and lots of consequences, which I won't guide us through. And then there's the references for all those bad things.
So is there a healthier way to sweeten things then?
With fat.
Like sometimes like you go to a health food store and you see like this stuff sweetened with like agave or something.
That's just sugar. But I will talk about artificial sweeteners a little bit later. I mean, maybe that'll be a venue to answer your question.
Yuck.
Two more. Okay, just other two more thoughts. Don't forget that you can get your blood work checked. You can check your blood. The reason I emphasize that is that we don't have to be stuck in all of this theory. If you're feeling go get 'em about this, and you want to try something, you want to see if you can more easily regulate your diet, you want to look great, or you have an issue,